Mr. Mohandas is currently the chairman of Aarin Capital and Manipal Global Education. He also serves as a governing council member of Center for Advanced Financial Research and Learning promoted by the Reserve Bank of India. He's been chairman of the Regulatory and Financial Technology Committee of the Securities and Exchange Board of India and chairman of the SEBI Primary Markets Advisory Committee. He was awarded the Padma Shri by the President of India in 2015. Mr. Pai.
Folks, thank you for inviting me. This is about India, a startup nation. 5,000-year-old civilization has now become a startup nation. This is the world today. The world is transformed. 250 years ago, a very unique event took place. The invention of the steam engine in Great Britain, and that transformed the world, brought in the Industrial Revolution. Till then, China, India were the largest economies in the world, then Europe took over. Now we are in the midst of the next revolution, which is the digital revolution. And if you look at the data, out of 8 billion people on the planet, about 5.5 billion people have a mobile phone, 5 billion people on the internet, and we are in the midst of it. And that's going to change the world like the industrial revolution did 250 years ago. And you can see the results in how the early movers dominate the world. Digital companies, excluding Saudi Aramco, is a country, but look at where value is being created. Tech eats the leaderboards. What does it mean? It means that 2021 profits the world's most profitable publicly listed companies. Saudi Aramco, of course. Berkshire is there. Then you've got Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, all the big companies, all American. All American. The Chinese were there, but they dropped off the map. And you can see the age of the tech giants. Some of them have been around, but some of them are very dominant. The biggest challenge to humanity and geopolitics is the rise of digital monopolies. It's not governments anymore, it's digital monopolies. I think Nick should have been here. The new normal global tech conglomerates who create their own system. Apple has 2 billion people. It's bigger than any country. Amazon has 4 billion people. Alphabet has 4 billion people on Android. And the Android system, even though open source, controls the technology. And Amazon, of course, is the big beast in the room, which is doing wonderful things. Great companies, but what about us as citizens? And look at this. The capture of the digital day, mobile operating systems, it is Alphabet 71%, iOS 27%, search 92% by Google, and social media, Meta, we just had Nick Clegg, and they're 79%. That is big. 79% of humanity, because all of them are billions of people. This is not about countries, it's about consumers in a nation. The US runs the world's cloud. Cloud is where all the data is. The US dominates like nobody else. The US rules the cloud. You can look at the revenue the US has, $206 billion. Julius Caesar, where Mark Antony said, he though strives the world like a colossus, and we petty men peer from beneath his mighty legs to find ourselves dishonorable graves. You can see it here. And then you can see which country has the most data center, the US. What about data localization? What about our data? If our data is located in a Meta cloud in the US, who is going to protect us if Meta kicks us out? Only our government, not the United States. We are non-resident aliens in the United States. That's what we are called, non-resident aliens, right? Now, the EU is an aging digital colony. I'm sorry about the heading, but its reality is true. And you can see why. Because, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all most visited websites. They're all in the United States. And EU has declared war on American tech. Of course, the EU is coming up. EU nearly needs to step up on technology. And I'll give you data for that too. Big tech outspends to maintain monopolies. Democracy is a system of competitive lobbies. Who spends the most on lobbying? There's big tech companies. We saw Mark Zuckerberg go before US Congress. We saw the kind of questions they were asked. Congressmen, I think, were in awe of Mark, right? It happens because it's very new. Now, of course, when Twitter shut off President Trump, the official handle, every political leader in the world understood you could be shut off. You could have millions of followers. Tomorrow, somebody says, off with your head, and you're off. Then what happens to you? You're gone. You don't exist in the digital world. You exist in the physical world. In the digital world is your data and you exist. They turn you off, you're gone. Now, that is the big challenge we have to force. That's why we need a universal declaration of digital rights minister. So every human being is protected by governments and the United Nations. Monopolies are not encumbered by geographical boundaries. It's all digital. You don't have to come to a country to set up office and get an approval. You don't need that. You're in the digital world. When India shut off the Chinese apps, the Chinese have 65% of the digital territory of India. We know how to defend our physical boundaries. What about digital territory? 65%. By now, it would have been gone. We'd have had 90% of the Chinese occupy digital territory. Thankfully, government of India did that. Whether by serendipity, otherwise, I don't know. Maybe by design. Now, Indian companies are there, thanks to Rustagi and others. Tech-forward business are now expansion monopolies. They are monopolies. They want to conquer the world. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It's great. But who controls them? Who has access to the data? The future era of competition are transversal technologies. Imagine a world where there are robots, humanoids who can do all the work. Robots have guns and go fight wars. Who is going to design them? We have unmanned vehicles going, shooting people all over the world, controlled 8,000 miles away. Look at what technology is doing. The future of connectivity with 5G, 6G, IoT, distributed infrastructure, trust architecture, future of programming, applied AI, next generation computing, and all these kind of things are coming up in a very big way. And when these come together, who has the ultimate power? What happens? We don't know. And this is happening at the speed which is unbelievable. Look at Foxconn. 1.1 million people were employed, or mostly women. Some of them went to Foxconn, I think, and said, we want a salary rise. They said, like in Alice in Wonderland, off with your head, replaced by 50,000 robots every year. My friend went to a Chinese factory, 1 kilometer deep by half a kilometer, no lights. He said, are you closed? They said, no, they're all robots, they're working. It's all produced, put by a robot into a truck, and the truck moves by itself. Right? And you can see here how robots have dexterity. Robots have now developed dexterity in the fingers, so they can do assembly, which couldn't be done earlier. Now look at Adidas. It takes 2 months, it takes 2 weeks to get a new shoe design done, all automatic. When robotics take over, manufacturing can go from country A to B because the labor component of manufacturing comes down dramatically. So labor productivity, labor costs do not become relevant. Supply chain costs become relevant, and that's what is happening today. Manufacturing will go to Europe, it will be automated, it will go to the United States, it will be automated. It's happening in India too in a big way. And then look at this, Atlas, the world's more dynamic humanoid. Do a backflip and land on your feet. Run. A cheetah runs at 60 kilometers. You can pull a cart and do many things that could not be done. Handle goods, lift it up, put it down, which couldn't be done. And you can see here, Spot, a nimble robot that handles objects. Go to Boston Dynamics, you can see all this. And this is for real. Designer babies. CRISPR allows you to enter the DNA and design babies in the womb or outside the womb. It's been done in some country. We don't know. The ethical issues here. Can people interfere the human DNA to design new babies that come into the world? We don't know. And this is a technology that is there, driven by huge computing power, driven by advances in technology for which we need answers as to what we do. India is the next stage theater of tech-driven value capture. Look at this, 1.4 billion people, 1.3 billion mobile phones, 1.2 billion mobile connections, 850 million people on the internet, and about 550 million people on social media. India's internet high growth trajectory driven by low cost. The cost of, you can get unlimited data for 100 rupees, $1.2 a month. No country gives that, thanks to the geo effect. And India fares in terms of time spent. You can see here, internet users, we spend 658 minutes per day. We got a little bit of time. We're not a busy society. We got time, right? And we spend a lot of time on the web. And you can see here how the COVID time, people shifted. Imagine a country like India, per capita income of $2,500, 60% of population shifted overnight to a mobile when we shut down. 60%, it happened. And government of India gave food to 800 million people, transferred money to 450 million women, just like this. How did it happen? Deepak? How did it happen? Like Minister said, it's magic. And I must compliment Prime Minister, because in 2015, August 15, he stood up on Red Fort and said, Digital India, Stand-up India, Startup India. Nobody understood what he meant. And look at today. 2015. The startup system will help create a $10 trillion economy for India. Look at this, 80,000 startups. Deepak, am I right? You crossed 80,000. Third largest in the world, $450 billion of value created. $450 billion of value created. This is wonderful. It's the biggest secret India has. India exported $178 billion of software last year. This year could be 195 to 200. And total revenue for IT in India will be 260 billion. It's the largest industry in India, IT, not textiles. It's IT in terms of revenue. Look at the numbers. And then we hired 500,000 technology people last year in services. With startups, 600,000 people. This year and next year, despite the downturn, we'll hire 1.4 to 1.5 million people. And these are fresh engineers. We have 5.1 million people employed. And let me give you some data. The United States has 6 million people in software. 1 million are Indians there. Americans have 9 million software people working for them globally. 3.5 million Indians. Out of this 5.1 million, 2.5 million works. That is, India is America's force multiplier in technology. And that's why this seminar today, Global Technology Summit in Delhi, is very, very good, because we are joined at the hip. The biggest partnership in technology globally is India and the United States. People don't even know about it. And of the top 10 software service companies by market value in India, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 3 million employees in the top 10, 2.1 million are Indians. And India has got 450 of the Fortune 500 companies who have their labs in India. And Bangalore has about 2.1 million technology people for 11 million people. The largest concentration of tech talent for any city in the world, more than Silicon Valley. And by 2024, 2025, India will have the largest tech population in the world for any country. For any country in the world. And this is the place which can supply technology, human capital to the whole world till India grows up and uses all of them. There's no other country which can do that in such large numbers with such high quality. And you can see startups here, 100,000 startups by 2025. Deepak, I'm going to change this to 200,000. Is that okay? 250? Okay, done. And we'll have 250 unicorns. We'll get $150 to $200 billion of capital, out of which about $16 billion has come this year, and the balance money is coming. And see here, we export more software than Saudi Arabia does oil. A small part of our population brain power gets us more revenue than the biggest oil exporting country in the world. And the data is very clear. And if you look at the startups here, we got $112 billion of capital from 2014 to 21, $42 billion last year. And this year, I think we got about 16 or 80 billion, right? And it's happening in Bangalore, etc. Bangalore has 300,000 chip designers and testers, 265 chip design testing companies. The largest talent in semiconductor chip design and testing is in Bangalore, and largely for US companies and Indian companies. And you can see here the ecosystem that has been created. Delhi, Bangalore, and Mumbai. Hyderabad, a lot of talk, a little bit. It has to grow up a little bit. And look at this, 107 unicorns. Last year, we had a unicorn coming up every week. If you walk in Bangalore, every corner, you have a unicorn founder and a billionaire. Of course, some of it disappears once in a while. We don't know what it is, but there's not cash. We'll have 250 unicorns by 2025. And unicorns by country, look at this. What Nick Legs did is what right, Rudra. So look at this. US, 865. US, China, and India have 1,200 of the 1312 unicorns globally. Of course, the US is the big beast, the 800-foot gorilla. It's the biggest market in the world, the greatest country in the world, and all that. And value creation, unprecedented pace. And we had 18 new companies as unicorn this year. And we'll be $1 trillion in value 2025. We've got to revise this, Deepak. We'll revise it. I think it looks small now because we're a little bit conservative. Because when you gave the target of 1 trillion 2 years back, everybody said 1 trillion. Now it looks very small. Online gaming, the gaming ecosystem is coming. Gaming is important because they're creating their own currency, they're creating their own world, and young people are hooked on to gaming. And if young people grow up to be adults very soon, that is the world they're going to experience, the metaverse. Young people move from the virtual reality to reality seamlessly, while we are the analog generation. Minister, this is the analog generation. That is the digital generation. We are talking to them. We must talk to 13, 15 kids and ask them the world they live in, and then work to make it happen and hopefully make it better. Because we are the analog generation. We're coming from the analog era. Do you know that on Twitch, more people watch games being played by others than play game themselves? And you can see EdTech, 6 or 7 unicorns. Baiju is a rock star. Of course, some challenges, little bit and up, valuation going up and down, but he'll pull it through. Health tech, big industry. Government says 500 million people will have health insurance. 245 million people have it already. About 23 million have it operations. And the data is going to be there, run by R.S. Sharma. And R.S. Sharma has told very clearly they can come and get the data. That data will enable us to know the human condition like nothing else, because this data can be used to do things which could not do. There's a company called Dozy in India, which has created a ICU bed. That means a bed with IoT devices under the bed, which captures 5 vitals for you and goes into a database. And they say, looking at the heartbeat, they can predict with some 85% certainty whether you're going to have a heart attack 3 months down the line, because they got the data. Just imagine that. Enterprise tech, a lot of them, deep tech, 3,400 AI startup, this old data. I remember a conversation with somebody from Europe, and 4 years back in my office, they said, oh, we are all having apps economy. Oh, are you having apps in India? I said, every kid in every street tries an app. It's very simple. I mean, in Bangalore, it happens all the time. I'm not boasting. It's really real how things are happening with young people. And you can see here why government support, Startup India, is really worked. It's one of the best schemes of the government of India. And you have Invest India with Deepak, who's creating magic within the Commerce Ministry. Corporate collaboration, active investors, internet penetration, per capita income. There'll be significant increase, everything coming together. What will the future be? Everybody is on the internet. The poorest of the poor, the last person in the room, like Minister said, is really happening. And look at the rise of India tech conglomerates. We are also going to have a tech conglomerate. Like Jio is becoming a tech conglomerate, buying a lot of companies. They raised $27 billion during COVID. The Tatas are building their own super app. This is good for us. We need large companies. And look at this. 44.2 million Indians, 90 unicorn founders. 90 unicorns have been founded with Indian origin founders. And here, US born, 56% of the unicorns have a US born founder, 44 are not US born, and then largest number is Indian. In the 60s and 70s, many Indians went to the West Coast, and they've done extremely well in that open system. Our neighbor went to Cambridge and Oxford. They went to the past, we went to the future. The fintech has distributed. Look at what happened in fintech. Studied no cash future, 7.3 billion transactions in UPI last year. You can transfer money from mobile to mobile in 30 seconds through the banking system. It works. Try doing in the US, and $151 billion. Government has transferred $325 billion to poor people and saved $25 billion the last 7 years. $325 billion, you must talk about it. 25 lakh crores. And look at this. We are the largest country, largest player in digital payments globally. The data is very clear. And banking as a service is disrupting the banking chains happening in India. Banking as a service. Banks will become utilities. There'll be neobanks on top. And you can see a company called Zerodha. 2 young boys created one of the biggest broking companies in the world, making money head over heels. Unbelievable. They got 11 million people who are operating with them. Digital public goods is India's great gift to the world. We gave the zero to the world. After that, we are given digital public goods. India Store, India Stack. This is a great invention by volunteers in Bangalore and other places who came together to do this. Aadhaar, paperless, cashless, consentless. Sharad Sharma is somewhere here. He led a team to do this. And look at JAM. Everything has happened because of this technology. But political buy-in was there. They allowed an individual to start that UIDAI, earlier government and this government. This government take it up forward. So India is very focused on including the last person in the room in the digital world. And it took 12 years. It's not been easy. It's a long journey. It happened in 2010. Who knew about all this in 2010? Certainly not people in Delhi. But 2010. And look at all the things that have happened. And here, when we had 17 laws put into GST, GST works, like you said. People have criticized the platform, but it works. One of the largest platforms, one of the most complex platforms in the world. The income tax portal worked despite criticism. Largest portal, 7.3 million returns were filed in 24 hours. 550,000 returns in 1 hour. Look at those numbers. Give me some other examples. We are very critical of ourselves, Deepak. We want minister to come and talk to us about all this so that everybody knows what the good work is happening. And then 64 billion transactions in UPI, digital adoption, etc. World-class service, world-class products are being built on the India stack because of open APIs. Open system is the open system dream for anybody in the world. It's being done here. And here are the benefits. Opening a bank account, 6 days to 1 hour. Transaction time down from 4 hours to 2 minutes for the Aadhaar KYC for a mutual fund. And for a SIM card, from 1 minute to 1 hour to 4 minutes. We're going to be data rich. We're already there, 80% of the way. India will have some of the largest databases in the world because we have a large number of people and large transactions. And you can see neobanks coming up. Neobanks are a set of apps on top of a banking layer because banking technology has been created for the regulator and for the banks, not for you and me. The neobanks are creating a layer of technology where you use apps to address our bank accounts, and that's going to change the way we deal. Paperless instant credit markets are coming up. Consented data exchange. Who owns the data? We own the data. But Meta owns the data. By this, we're going to own the data, and if you want to give data to somebody, we're going to have a consent architecture to give consent to somebody to own the data. If somebody misuses the data, we'll go to minister, and minister will protect us. Because we have to be protected. Data belongs to me and we, because we have a digital avatar which is bigger than the physical avatar. Because the physical avatar is momentary, the digital avatar has a history and the legacy of years. All our accumulated, digital data is there. Account aggregator. This is very significant. If you have multiple bank accounts, do you know what is the balance in each bank account? By account aggregator, you know the balance because everything comes together. And then the bank owns the data. Now I own the data because of this. The bank owns the data. I have to go to the bank because now I own the data because of the account aggregator. I can consolidate all the data and do what I want and get credit. Consented data exchange. How do I exchange data? This is all the digital public goods. OCEN, Open Credit Enabled Network. Last person in the room to get credit. This is going to give them instant credit because the data will be there for them. ONDC, that is Open Network for Digital Commerce. That's for e-commerce to link all the mom and pop shops. We cannot let the mom and pop shop disappear. They have to earn the living. And we can't have only big companies do that. We need both to be there, right? And this will help them interact in the digital world. This is the ONDC chart. National Health Stack. This is going to be a fantastic health stack. Open protocols are reimagining entire industries and ecosystem. No more closed networks. Open systems are coming up because that fosters innovation. Number of years, look at this. Pokemon, 19 days, but our Arogya Setu, 13 days for 50 million. The speed of change is enormous. So you've got to have this, this Global Technology Summit every year in Delhi, but have the Global Tech Summit in Bangalore. Because Delhi and Bangalore have to talk, like Bombay and Bangalore have to talk for money. Yes, a robust foundation for innovative solutions. India is optimizing to empower problem solvers to create the new digital economy to take India forward. Thank you very much.